Well, good morning, everybody. My name's Larry Jacobs. This is Free K12 Education Talk Radio. Thanks so much for being with us today as I turned down the music far too low, much lower than I wanted to. Okay, welcome to today's show. We got a good one for you today. I've got my good friends from Turn It In here today. I got Ian McCullough, who's been with us before. He's their Director of Marketing for Global Secondary Education. And then we've got Dr. David Adamson. David is an AI scientist at Turn It In. You can learn more about Turn It In, but you know, they check for plagiarism and all that sort of stuff. Everybody knows Turn It In products, but we're going to be talking about AI today, artificial intelligence, and K12 and how it's impacting what AI is looking at. This is really a big part of their business now, et cetera, to be checking for this and all this sort of thing. How it works. Is it positive? Is it negative? What's going on? We're going to find out from two people who actually know what they're talking about, Dave Adams and Ian McCullough. It's going to be a great show. We're going to archive the show over at ace-ed.org. That's our American Consortium for Equity in Education. And we have our Equity Awards program open now. Early bird nominations. Go over, check it out. You'll see the icon. We got our magazine, Equity and Access. All the podcasts are over there at ace-ed.org. And I do hope you go over there, check it all out. Everything we do at ace-ed.org is all about equity, all about access, all about what's happening in K12 today. And everything we do over there is free. So please check it on out, ace-ed.org. All right. And good morning, Ian. How are you, my friend Ian McCullough?
Doing well, Larry. How about yourself?
I'm good, buddy.
We seem to do this about this time every year. It's like our annual gathering.
We need to do more. We need to do more. Winter, summer, spring, fall. But it's spring today, and it is just great. You know, you're always welcome here, my friend. And David, nice to meet you. Yep, David. How you doing, David Adamson? Dr. Dave?
Doing great. Not actually a doctor. Actually, I quit my PhD to get into educational technology.
Just so you know this, you can reapply at the University of Larry. That's me. Okay.
All right. Well, I'll take your honorary degree.
So you may call yourself doctor from now on, Dave. Okay.
All right.
No problem.
It's been done.
And actually, what were you doing? What were you getting your doctorate in? That's a good question.
So I started my career as a high school teacher in Baltimore City at Digital Harbor High School. I taught for 6 years, math and computer science. And then I ran away to grad school in language technologies at Carnegie Mellon. It's a computer science department focusing on how linguistics and what we know about human language can apply to computation. And actually, I did a lot of work in social sciences and learning science applications of language technologies there. Before kicking off a small startup focusing on automated feedback for students, AI-powered feedback for students while they're writing essays before they turn it in.
Wow.
And that led me to Turn It In itself.
Wow. What can I tell you? All right, that's pretty good stuff. I can call you doctor. As far as the University of Larry is hereby, like the Wizard of Oz, the University of Larry hereby grants you a doctorate. You're smart enough. Okay, would that be correct?
Syncology. I'll take it.
Would that
absolutely?
Doctor of Larryology. See, Turn It In is committed to integrity, and David Adamson is a paragon of it.
There you go. Thank you, Dr. McCullough, for your brilliant analysis.
I get a doctorate too. Wow, cool.
You do absolutely, Ian. Are you kidding me? You're more than welcome to. How many doctorates you want, Ian?
You and I will figure that out next time. We got later stuff to talk about.
We do. We got big stuff to talk about. And Ian, I want you to just talk about Turn It In. You can do, and everybody kind of knows Turn It In, but talk about that part. And again, you're Global Secondary Education Director of Marketing, but then get into what you guys are doing with AI. Before we get into the specific stuff down in the weeds, just talk about Turn It In and then Turn It In and AI. That's big stuff right now. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Ian McCullough, everybody. The former Mr.
Larry.
Ian McCullough, now Dr. Ian McCullough. Go ahead.
I mean, this has been a productive show already.
It's a big day. Yeah.
The Turn It In has now been serving institutions in higher education and in secondary education for 25 years now. So the 25 years old company that is certainly widely familiar, where really at the core of what we do, we focus on questions of academic integrity. and supporting student success as it connects to academic integrity.
Yep.
And classically, what Turnitin is known for is helping educators identify whether or not students might be plagiarizing their essays. That is what are certainly our most famous tools. And everyone can go to Turnitin.com and check out our entire history. But more recently, when we really think about student writing and where it is that students may need boundaries and potentially some correction, the emergence of OpenAI's ChatGPT over the past several months, where they launched this really just mind-blowingly amazing new tool in November.
It is amazing.
It is a very, very, very impressive work with a huge amount of potential. But, you know, from a teaching point of view, there's a lot of temptation for students too. And so really what we've been focused on for the past, you know, so what the company at large, and I'll get into this in a second, has been focused on for the past 6 months is in response to the rapid popularization of AI writing, generative AI, is equipping institutions to address this with students and trying to facilitate conversations. We have a new AI writing detection capability similar to that is similar in effect to how teachers have been using us to identify when students are copying from other sources and not citing their sources properly. We put into the world last month and are collecting some really great feedback on, so we can continue to improve it. And I think the thing that I wanted to qualify there, where I'm like the company at large over the past 6 months has been focused on this, but the reality is that my good friend David and the AI team that he worked on have been working on this particular challenge for years. And so as new as it is for the world, this is something where we've accumulated a lot of experience in terms of what it looks like when students, you know, potentially are using it, and then a lot of the questions around it, because, yeah, there are definitely some cases where students receive an assignment that they look to take a shortcut, and that's something that teachers need to be able to know so that they can address and improve. But I mean, the more complicated question here is that there is such potential for learning and instruction, and helping educators identify where that may be relevant as well. And you and I can talk about that in a little bit, because I want to give David a chance to talk a little bit over the past of where this has all come from and how long we've been working on this.
Yeah, well, actually, David, and that's Ian, thank you. And David, hold on 1 second, but I want to say a couple of things to you. First of all, Ian was very positive about AI. I loved that a minute ago. Okay, he's positive about it. Okay, but I remember Terminator 3. Okay. Okay, which has me worried.
Oh, wow.
And
also Terminator 2. I suppressed Terminator.
I saw them all.
That wasn't a very good movie.
I saw them all. And also, I remember this phrase back in 1969, open the pod bay door, Hal. Okay, when the computer figured out what was going on with the mission and became more concerned about the mission than its job, okay, in 2001, A Space Odyssey. So I know you're not old enough to, you weren't even born when I saw that 2001 A Space Odyssey, David, okay? But this is what I've been through with AI, and I want to ask you, this is quite serious, though it sounds funny. Ian's very positive about all this. Talk to me about this from your point of view. Where are we on this? And need we worry about Terminator 3, Mr. Schwarzenegger? Go ahead. Okay,
well,
David.
I worry more about Terminator 2 because it was a better movie. But putting that aside,
argue that, but we're not going to
today. Technology. My Carnegie Mellon degree is in drama. I'm going to talk about your taste in movies, Larry.
Okay, good. There you go.
I'll come back to some more movie references later here as well.
Okay.
So I think actually I'll dive right in. Jurassic Park. We're not going to keep these dinosaurs on the island. Life finds a way. We're going to have to coexist with
That's right.
This new tool, this technology, just like we did with graphing calculators and grammar checkers. They're here with us. I want to ride a dinosaur. I think that'll be really amazing. And I think students are going to be using tools like AI writers to help them as part of their writing process, to be their research buddy, to rephrase ideas that they're struggling with, to help English language learners kind of compete on the same playing field as native English speakers, for example. So I think from that perspective, I feel just like Ian, super positive. I think the risk is in getting complacent and saying, I'm going to let this run itself. I'm going to, let the dinosaurs run the theme park. And I think as long as we are teaching the next generation of scientists and leaders and engineers how to use generative AI tools responsibly, just like we teach responsible use of Google searches today in classrooms, I think we're going to be fine. It's just going to become part of our culture, just like email is part of our culture as well. These are skills and norms we get to practice and develop together.
But the response, and I, by the way, I love what you guys just said in your Jurassic Park. We got to coexist. Okay, I love that. Okay, we do have to coexist with this thing. And let me put it the other way. It has to coexist with us. Okay, as well, which I guess is the Terminator side of the movie. Okay, the rise of the machines. All right, so there has to be a coexistence. Until we can coexist, okay, and machines tend to, in my opinion, tend to be smarter than humans, okay, what's the response been, okay? The response seems to be from education. Some people are hesitating, saying, oh, yeah, this is great, okay? But the people who say that to me are responsible people, all right? And there are a lot of irresponsible people out there, all right? How do we put this into the milieu of education in K12 responsibly? And I think that's the key word here. Dave. It's responsible.
Yeah, so,
and that's, by the way, this is what you guys are aiming to help us with. Okay?
Absolutely.
Because the word responsible is the same thing as integrity, what Ian was saying. I mean, you have integrity to do this, but there are people who don't have integrity. There are systems that do not have integrity. Okay, we got to be careful on this one. So
there's essay mills. There's schools that are just printing diplomas, like the School of Larry, for example.
That's the University of Larry. If you're good, please. University of Larry.
There's a K12 degree as well there. Yeah. So if teachers or students are going to be lazy and punt on their responsibilities, that is something that's going to happen. We need to make it easy for instructors and students to follow the most responsible path, to have the practices of the discipline be obviously available and to define them well. I think for students, that is, like I said before, equivalent to just teaching basic tools, engaging them, and how do you critique AI writing and identify what's missing about it? How do you fact check it? For instructors who want to not change their assignment style, they've been doing 5-paragraph essays for their 9th graders for 30 years. It's going to be a problem because that's something that ChatGPT does very well. And even with a tool like Turnitin's detector in place to say, hey, this may be AI written, they're going to have to deal with a flood of writing that maybe they can't tell apart. Maybe they can't evaluate to the same standard because the baseline, the low water mark, has risen. So I think there is a responsibility for instructional leaders in schools to reevaluate their assessment practices and say, do my rubrics account for assistance during the writing process? Just like on the math side, I was a math teacher.
Yeah.
My kids are using calculators. Of course they are. If I send them home and I give them a graphing problem, they're going to use a graphing calculator. They might use Wolfram Alpha. I need to make sure that the way I assess is about their process and their product and their understanding, not just the product, but how they got there and how they can relate it. I think we're going to see more, not necessarily oral examinations, but demonstrations of knowledge that are a little more organic, that look at a portfolio of progress. I know these are not new educational practices, as you know.
No, they are not.
But a lot of teachers have stuck with old ways because they're comfortable, because they're easy to grade while sipping a glass of wine in the evening with a stack of papers. But, and I'm talking as a former teacher myself, but moving beyond that to how do you engage with the content in a way that shows your whole understanding, that builds that synthesis, becomes more important. We have to bubble everything up, Bloom's taxonomy, in this world where an AI can do the bottom couple of layers.
And can we keep up with it, Dave? Can we keep up as teachers? As teachers, can we keep up with the technology?
We've been doing a great job with technology for the past, I don't know, when was the typewriter invented? For the past 100 years, 200 years, keeping up with technology. And I think every new thing, we get the same wave of panic. The 4-function calculator is going to destroy math education. The grammar checker in Microsoft Word is going to make my kids no longer worry about how they write a sentence. Code highlights and automatic completions in computer science courses with your IDEs. We're still teaching all those subjects. We're adapting. We're growing with the practices in the field and preparing our students to use these tools and their knowledge responsibly after school.
So how do you build all
that? I think teachers will keep up.
Oh, good.
I actually want to do a quick follow-on. Yeah, I want to do a quick follow-on and kind of pose a question back to you, Larry, where one of the remarkable things about ChatGPT specifically is that when you use it, it feels like it kind of came out of nowhere. But when you really look at the history here in terms of how things have been evolving, I know you're probably very dedicated to your rotary dial phone on your desk, Larry, and do you still dial an operator like in Mary Poppins?
I do. 411 for information. Yeah.
All right, and great. You can call date and time too. I don't even know if that's still.
It's 60 cents to mail a letter now. I thought it was 3 cents. I went to the post office.
Amazing.
Unbelievable.
But you have a smartphone or something, presumably, and if you think about the lineage, and David, keep me honest on the technology side here, but we've been at the sort of like the word and the sentence level. We've had for decades since we've had decades for use of spell checking. All right, so spell checking is a thing, and then grammar checking came along. I remember Microsoft Word in the 90s when that came out, and you remember Clippy. Who doesn't remember making fun of Clippy? And the sort of the progression here, there's websites dedicated to autocomplete memes where your phone will do predictive text. It's sort of like, what's the next word? And on that one. And so when you really look at the emergence here and what's been happening, as amazing as some of these recent advancements seem, this has been happening all along, and we've been actually driving code and creating new opportunities at every single step of the way. Now feels like a huge jump from, auto-correcting a word to auto-completing a sentence to writing 5-paragraph essays in a very persuasive way. But behind the scenes, people like David have been looking at these sorts of challenges a long time, and people have been using them.
They have been, and you're right. There's a good point. My question though, is, and this is again what you guys do. There's an integrity point. There's an ethics behind all this. Okay, and we have as educators. Okay, and again, teaching people how to use a tool is great education, but there's got to be ethics behind that. And I'm curious how does a tool, and I want to get into this with you guys, okay, if you want to get into this, Turnitin has an AI writing detector, okay, like your plagiarism detector. You have an AI detector, okay? What is it looking for when you do that? How does such a thing work? All right, and you don't have you don't have a spell check director, okay? So at least the person got the idea right. The spelling was wrong. I could tell you stories about that from my college years. Okay. All right. But the idea was right. Okay. But if somebody's not thinking and just using a machine, there has to be an ethics behind it. I think maybe there doesn't. What's going on with that? And that's my question here. Have you built this into your detector?
That's great. So there's a couple of questions there. There's how
there are many questions
does a language model generate text? How do we detect it? And how do we communicate to an instructor what we might understand or not understand about the intent of the student or the process in which they're employing it. So I don't think we can really tackle the last one yet, but I'm gonna lean there with what I answer. So back to Jurassic Park. The scene where Jeff Goldblum puts a drop of water on Dr. Sattler's hand, and it kind of runs down. It might run down from path. He's talking about chaos, but a language model, a large language model, is essentially Dr. Sattler's hand in this metaphor, where it's learned the contours of the semantic space. If you start here, where are you likely to go next? And so the deeper grooves are more likely. A language model is going to follow those grooves on your hand as a drop of water running down to string together a chain of words that might follow from where you start. Okay. And there are some predictable patterns in that aren't necessarily word for word or phrase for phrase, but how ideas connect, how the drop winds, that is related to how the language model was trained. And our detector is essentially comparing, during training, a body of authentic academic writing against AI-generated writing in the same context. So how do those paths differ? When a person's writing veers left, AI writing veers right. AI writing tends to stay in these deeper grooves on the doctor's hand as it goes. So it's not foolproof. You can, of course, like you said, you can rewrite it. You can add some spelling changes, some paraphrases to make it less like the natural AI writing. And that's a place where you've taken an extra step. You've done some editing yourself. You've made it more your own. Maybe we won't detect that as well. But what we're going to detect are those kind of very direct, obvious paths of AI writing over several sentences.
And David,
what do we do with that, right?
Okay, you go ahead. Go ahead, continue. Yeah, go ahead.
So what do we do? We can say, hey, it looks like this series of text could have come out of an AI. It's possibly AI writing. Right now, in our early preview that we were sharing with all of our customers, we have some resources, some instructional resources. Say, hey, here are some ways you can have a conversation with your students. Here are some ways you can talk about AI writing in your class. What we can't do yet is say it came from this prompt or from GPT-4 or 3 or from Claude, Anthropic's LLM. We can just say, hey, this looks like it could have come from AI writing as an informative tool for instructors to say, I need to think about this in my classroom, or maybe pull the student aside and ask them some questions about what they understand about what they wrote. And that's about as far as we can go right now, because we're not watching the student through their whole process, right? We're not watching them do draft over draft. A teacher could do that. They could have them submit their whole process or talk about their edits in a way that shows their development and understanding. Even if AI writing is part of the process, they can demonstrate their ideas are their own.
Where do you see the danger? Where do you see the danger, David? Why are people?
Where do I see the danger?
Yeah, why are people scared of all this? And again, they have to watch Jurassic Park and they'll get it. All you need is what's it like? Wayne Knight just stealing some of the DNA, to keep using the movie analogy. Okay, and it goes into chaos theory. Okay, so what happens when the bad guy gets it? What happens? And I have to ask this. There's so many questions come up. The graphing calculator. Okay, this is the same thing. The graphing calculator, okay, kids use that, so they had to learn how to use the tool, okay? But the teacher has to make sure that they understand what they're looking at, okay? That's the difference, but everybody uses the tool. But the tool works. It will build a better bridge, literally a bridge over water. It will build a better bridge, okay? So will AI, this is key, build a better whatever we want to build, okay, in terms of intelligence? Should we even be concerned about it? Will it build a better one? I don't know how to ask this question. This is like heavy-duty stuff.
I may offer you an assist on this one, Larry, and because I think that there's a direction in terms of some of the fears on this. I think in an academic setting, one of the things that I want to anchor, and again, this is something you've stood for a very long time, as we look at the implications for student writing. David already hit on it, that part of what needs to happen, just like with graphing calculators in decades past, again, I may not have seen 2001 in a movie theater, but I do remember people, like teachers being very, very aware of the TI-84 and the HP graphing calculator in high school and being like, all right, put it away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what David's getting at, but it's the expectation setting in terms of when is the tool use appropriate in an education setting. And then we're going to get into slightly a broader context on this one. Because I think that one of the things for you as an advocate of equity to think about in terms of these potential is that while responsible student use, just like with, searching the internet and finding things on Wikipedia, you have to set the expectations properly. You want, statements in your syllabus. Go to turnitin.com. We have resources to help you with that one. The possibilities here is when you think of something that can generate coherent sentences and help students learn what effective writing might look like, think of that as a potential equity tool for struggling students. I would say on this one, this is in the realm of the speculation. This is Ian sort of prognosticating on this one.
I love it when you do that. Go ahead.
An IEP accommodation for dyslexic students.
Mm-hmm.
If you struggle with writing, could these tools be useful as an equity accommodation, on an IEP? I think that there's a possibility there. Obviously, that's got to be institution and individualized by nature, but that's something that as this new world and general awareness of it happens, that's where this could go. Now, I think that one of the other challenges where educators have a responsibility is that what David talked about in terms of Jurassic Park and the water droplet and what it is that these large language models actually do. There's this perception, because the language is so is so convincing and human-like, that because it comes from a computer system, that it's correct, or the information behind the language is good. And I think one of the big challenges that we, not just as educators, but as a collective society, have to prepare students for, is that the large language model just predicts predicts what comes next. Is that a fair statement, David?
Yeah, or it kind of gives you the space of what could come next.
Let me explain large language
hand.
model. Yeah, I didn't mean to overtalk you, but explain large language model.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Good.
So, again, what a large language model is just the result of a computer looking at a whole lot of text, of context, of what came before and what comes after, and building some kind of statistical model of what's likely to come after given the context before. There's bunches of wires and cross connections in the middle that kind of make it kind of more able to navigate that space. But in the end, that's all it is. It's just something that's going to predict what's coming next, given access to this large background of knowledge. But it's not making something new. It's following familiar paths. So I think the onus on students and educators is to respond to assignments and create assignments that leave that path, that make something new. We're looking at Dr. Sattler's hand, but we're not looking at, the world around it. What's the water droplet going to do when it falls into the T-Rex footprint? That's something new. That's outside of the model. And if we can encourage our students to bridge to that new kind of writing, to newer thought sooner, then I think, they'll keep on developing. We're not, just forcing them to write, what everyone else has been writing for the last 30 years. In order to grow, we'll teach them how to do something new.
If I can, I want to jump in with a clarification. So in terms of, for members of the audience who are also digging in, we use this phrase large language model to kind of put the hierarchy into place. People are very, very familiar with ChatGPT. ChatGPT is an application.
Right.
Like you go to this website, and you can type prompts into ChatGPT. ChatGPT is built upon now a series of large language models which are called GPT-4, GPT 3.5, GPT-3, and that's sort of the engine under the hood of ChatGPT. That's the large language model. And those large language models can power other applications. For example, Microsoft recently is integrating a lot of this into Bing. And this is sort of where we get into some of the challenges of informational accuracy, not just linguistic accuracy, and we may overestimate what the text actually says. And you were talking about Terminator 3 and HAL.
Yeah.
I think questions, and this is a question for philosophers that we'll be debating for a long time, and we debate internally, is do these systems, I put in air quotes on here, know what they're saying? And there's an argument that in terms of perception, people could say, yes, they know because they generate things, but they may or may not have like awareness the way we would think of human awareness. They do what they're told, which is generate likely language. And when we think of some of the challenges, part of what we need to teach students to do in this new age of artificial intelligence is be healthily skeptical of anything that you read and make sure that you're confirming sources. Because
we've been saying that for years. Yeah, we've been saying that for years on the internet. Yeah.
This is a continuum here where the social and philosophical piece of this is the technology is amazing. But if people assign more to the technology than what the technology is actually doing, I mean, goodness gracious, we're heading into election year next year, and you can think about the nefarious people just generating text upon text for, that's just not correct.
Could you imagine politics getting dirty? Could you imagine politics being dishonest? Yeah, it's something that's beyond us. You guys got me thinking, and I
Social
remember
media
back in
spawning controversy in politics? No, tell me more.
Right, and I'll tell you, I remember when I was a kid going to the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia in the 1950s, the Science Museum, and there was a room the size of basically the Rock of Gibraltar, and that was their computer, okay, and it was, quote, a thinking machine, okay, and you just kind of brought this up. They called the computer, what is a computer? People didn't even know what it was. They called it a thinking machine. Give it some information and it can think. That's what Ian was just saying. Does it know what's happening with those air quotes? Okay. And, what scares me about the AI beyond, just is does it care? Okay. And that's the difference, I think, that we've got to be very careful of. It's the ethics, again, I'm going to get back to that word, the integrity of it. Does it care? Okay. And humans care. And I have a question, David. I don't know if this is, could a computer, an AI computer, generate the theory of relativity before Einstein had thought of it? Can it take the place of a human in that regard? Can it go that far?
I'm going to say in that particular example, I mean, it's a little constructed because we have data from that period of time. It's impossible to kind of tease apart those order of events. But I think that kind of new science, that kind of new development is leaving the model. It's something new. I think what AI assistant tools could do for you is help you draw some connections, help you find research articles or someone else's results, and you ask a question, it might bring some pieces together that you hadn't looked at next to each other before. I think using something like the Bing or Bard search tools as a research buddy, as a tool to, bring parts together is fascinating. I think that final moment of aha, and here's how it connects is still going to come from people at the risk of, falling into Philip K. Dick or Blade Runner kinds of evaluations of what does it mean to be truly human? Is it dreaming? Is what's happening under the hood of an LLM more like dreaming or hallucination than it is like following probabilities? Maybe it doesn't matter. But I do think for now, at least, we're still in the position where people are going to generate new ideas and new content. And all that these LLMs are going to do is give it back to us remixed in different ways.
Yeah. It's really, by the way, was the old line, do robots dream of electric sheep? Wasn't that Isaac Asimov? Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
Oh, that was Philip K. Dick, and that was
that Philip Dick? That's
Philip K. Dick. That was a short story.
So Asimov gets into the 3 laws, into constitutional. Actually, my this high school I taught at, we had a robotics team, and I insisted that our mascot, because our school mascot was the Rams, that our robotics team mascot was the electric sheep. And I'm very proud of that. The kids didn't really get it, but
that's great. I got it.
I got them there anyway. So shout out to Digital Harbor High School there.
David, let me ask you
translating
this, okay? Go ahead.
Oh, so taking your theory of relativity question and David's answer and pulling it together. Yeah. Well, the future is full of amazing possibilities. Talking about what the technology today does, maybe somebody's got something in a lab, but based on what we see, Albert Einstein couldn't go and say, write me a theory that explains gravity. It would come back to Isaac. What it could do is Heinrich Lorentz is coming up with some interesting thing. Einstein could sit down and say, summarize the findings and mathematical works of Heinrich Lorentz. And that might actually help Einstein get to general relativity. And, for anybody who doesn't watch science YouTube videos, I've now given you some names to do some homework on.
There you go. What was it? I can't think of it. I went blank on it just now. In Breaking Bad, who was the famous physicist? He was constantly saying, okay, nobody knew who he was till Breaking Bad, so I can't think of his name, for goodness sake.
You're talking about Heisenberg.
Heisenberg. Yeah, Heisenberg.
Well,
Are we going to do a show on quantum mechanics for you? Because David and I could totally come back for that.
Wow. He's welcome to come back, and he can explain it to me. It'd be a 24-year show. I mean, to explain quantum physics to me. Okay, that is such. You can ask AI to do that, and that would blow up the machine. Okay, explain AI to quantum physics. You could explain string theory.
Application, and that's a test for you and your listeners. We're sort of coming to time on this one. But
no, we're not.
You could give it a shot. Go to ChatGPT and say explain quantum mechanics to me.
Yeah.
See what happens.
And we'll work
and explain. Take that a step further. For any of the teachers listening here, don't just explain something that you think is kind of a toy problem. Take the assignment that you're about to give to your students right now. Take your written instructions, paste them into ChatGPT, GPT-4, and ask it to write a high-quality response, and see, how well it can do with, responding to your assignment prompt. And if it's going to get an A, maybe you need to revise your assignment or your assessment practices, or maybe you need to make sure that you're using Turnitin's AI detector.
I think so. We're going to plug that again in a second, but I want to just say something else here. Part of what a good teacher needs to do, is teach students to ask the right question. Mm-hmm. And maybe the answer isn't as important as the question. Okay? And maybe that's where the AI fits in so beautifully into K12 amongst all these other things. When you ask the right question, it takes all the information in the world. Okay? That's really what we're talking about. You can take that down to English literature about the David Copperfield. Read the book and ask AI a question about it and see what those kids have asked. Okay? Read this chapter and ask AI a question. Find out what the kids have asked. And the AI is just supplying an answer to what could be that theory of relativity. Okay? How does all this work? Well, how come the moon stays 225,000 miles or 240,000 miles from the Earth? That type of thing. Okay?
Yeah, it encourages curiosity. Yeah, it
really
curiosity.
does. And easier answers. Okay? It's such a fascinating thing. And so, David, where do you think it's going to go? We got to wind down in a few minutes. Where do you think this is going to go with K12?
With K12,
where do you want
I think
it's just maybe that's a better way to put it.
Yeah, well, those are both great questions. I think keeping it as part of the digital literacy curriculum, making sure it's kind of a fundamental tool, is absolutely necessary. And I'm hearing some beeps. Am I still there?
You're here. Yeah.
Okay, great. And I think keeping it just as part of the practice is going to be critical. I think if we can get instructors to engage with the whole process of student writing and evaluate the drafts and the outlines that some teachers are, of course, already doing, but making that fundamental, I think the right place for using these AI tools will drop into place in research, especially. We're not going to the library anymore. We're doing web searches. This is the next step when you're building your research paper. So I'm looking forward to that. And I think if we do it right, then as jobs and the world beyond education evolve to use these tools, our kids will graduate ready to use these tools responsibly and effectively throughout their whole lives.
Yeah, and boy, you just said something that scared me. We're not going to the library anymore, and you're right. Yeah, it scared me. I got it being an old fart. It scared me.
The computer lab is the library.
I'm going to modify that. Students aren't starting at the library, but the libraries are still vital parts of the information ecosystem. Yeah. Got to speak up for the libriarians in our audience. Really
I love them.
Turn it in.
And they're the best people at my schools.
Yeah, we all agree with that. But it's again, the role of the library changes. With all this, the role of the library changes. It's not what we're doing for. Ian, do a real quick pitch for the AI, for the Turnitin AI detector. Talk about that.
No, I think on this one, as we mentioned, we have this capability in preview phase in many of our integrity products right now. So we can collaborate with educators and figure out what this all means so that we can figure out what the path forward looks like and we can put the questions around it. Because from Turnitin's point of view, one thing that we can say with certainty, we may not be able to predict exactly where all of this is going to go because this is a huge deal. Mm-hmm. But what we can say is that, pretending that this is not happening is not going to serve students at all. Like these sorts of technologies are
they're here.
They're
here.
Already penetrating.
We have to coexist with the dinosaurs. We have to coexist
with the dinosaurs, and part of that
good analogy, David.
Is simply it's knowing whether or not students are using it, and if they are using it, is it within the boundaries and expectations of appropriateness? And so where we are in this journey together as a whole education community is these things have existed for a while, but now they're popular and widely used and accessible. And in terms of detection and understanding, it's when educators are empowered with information, then they can intervene where appropriate. And maybe the intervention is saying, hey, you shouldn't be using the AI detector that way. Or sorry, not using it. You shouldn't be using an AI writing tool that way. Make that correct. Teachers should absolutely be using the AI detector. But you shouldn't be, let the students say you shouldn't be using the AI writing detector, the AI writing tool that way. But I think that the other possibility here, which we remains to see, is there may be cases where students could use a little help, and teachers can say that you really struggled with that draft here. Have you considered using? I see that you didn't use it. Will that information equip teachers to work with students to say there's some potential help for you to improve your writing if you kind of use this as a writing buddy?
That's right.
And having that information can swing the other way. And so really it comes down to just knowledge and awareness when students are and aren't using it and when is that appropriate. And that's the conversation we are actively having with our customers and the education community at large.
It's the right tool. It's a tool to be used as necessary. It's that simple. So this just came in from the University of Larry. Okay. David has qualified for another doctorate during the show. Okay, but unfortunately, it has taken back Ian's because, and he will laugh at this. we have discovered back to Mister because we have discovered he is actually a roue.
Oh, good Lord! I'm never going to live that one down.
You weren't. Okay. I have to say this. David.
Yeah.
Years ago, okay, Ian he called me a roue. Now, nobody knows what that word means, but I do. Okay, and we were laughing like crazy because he's the only person in the world I know who would use that word. And it's not dirty, by the way.
All I can say on that one is I have the benefit of outstanding English teachers during my time, which expanded my vocabulary. And for the record, for anybody who's confused, Larry's a great guy to spend time with. He is not actually, like, when you greet an old friend and you're like, you owe so-and-so, and yes, I invoked the word that I learned in middle school.
I loved it. I loved it. And
That's
it's
great.
actually
Yeah, I'll
part
have
of
to use my digital literacy skills to search for that word and learn about
Roue,
it.
R-O-U-E, and it's an old term, and it's actually part of a song from the musical, you'll love this, Ian, from the musical Pippin. Okay, that word appears in the song.
I will.
Okay.
I will.
I see.
Connection. David and I both have degrees from Carnegie Mellon University. He did computer science. I did theater and drama. Pippin was written by Stephen Schwartz, another fine Carnegie Mellon University.
Really? There you go. Well, obviously the word roue, because he used that word in the song that was sung in the original thing by Irene Ryan. Okay, that's very famous. I can't think what it's called. Time to start living. Time to take a little from the world we're given. And
Larry, and again, I just want to be clear here. This was a conversation amongst old friends at this point, where I gave Larry a jovial greeting that demonstrated why English teachers are so important in student education.
Absolutely.
I
thought it might have been like a mix of flour and water that you used to thicken a sauce, but I'm with you now.
Actually, I should give you. I'll give you a degree, give you a doctorate in English literature for using the word properly. Okay, as always, you're one of my favorite people to talk to. I'm going to keep coming back,
Larry. I have a great time with you, but you're never going to let me live that one down.
I mean, really, and Dr. Adamson is invited back anytime too. He's really smart.
Well, thank you, Larry.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thanks for letting me finish my PhD.
It's there. Okay, go for it. You know? University of Larry. Okay, well known as. Well, I won't get into that. Okay, you guys take care. All right, thank you. This was I really love this conversation. Right. Thank you, guys. Okay,
there's going to be more talk Larry. On this particular topic for a long time. It's big.
All right,
it's big. Okay, thank you both. Bye, guys.
Bye. Take care. Bye.
Right, bye. My favorite roue, Ian McCulloch from Turn It In, their global marketing director, and David Adamson is one of the AI scientists, both Carnegie Mellon guys, okay, as opposed to Honeydew Mellon. All right, and we're going to archive the show over at ace-ed.org. This is a huge topic, okay? It's big stuff, okay? And this is just the beginning of us digging into it, okay? And it's all about equity. Can we give kids more knowledge? Let's use the tools properly. I'm Larry Jacobs. Go see what we do. It's all free over at ace-ed.org. Check out Turn It In, too. Bye-bye.